We're back, Series 1, Episode 8 on the STI build. You guys wanna see this baby on the ground? Stay tuned, airlift install coming your way. Okay, so here's our airlift struts. We just finished replacing the pillow ball bearings and the both front struts because they're the ones that are constantly turning when you turn your steering wheel. We're just gonna leave the original ones that are in it right now on the rears because they don't do too much and they seem to be fine right now. So we got 4 hoses. They're just a braided line. I imagine you can get these built to the size that you need at most local auto stores. But these ones came with the airlift suspension kit. They just thread in with a pipe thread fitting in the bottom of the airbag. You're gonna want to use thread sealant, either liquid thread sealant or Teflon tape. We're out of our liquid thread sealant. Other jobs we were doing, pipe thread, sealant for NPT, Teflon tape. We're gonna put that on these threads. And then it comes with one fitting that is a pipe thread, 1/4 inch pipe thread on one side. And this is a air brake fitting. So this just pushes onto a plastic airline. And when you're removing it, you push the airline in and then you wanna squeeze this guy in. And then you pull the airline out to release. Sealant on all the threads, get our airline fittings on, and then we're gonna go ahead and install these into the vehicle. Going to show you how to remove your original struts and install the airlift struts, and we'll also give you a quick rundown on how we previously installed the air system into this vehicle, and you know, how we routed the hoses and what regulators we used and air filters we used, and how we installed it in the trunk. For now, it's not exactly how we want it to be in the scheme of things. We obviously want it to be beautiful, homemade boxes or homemade trunk space, but for now we kind of made it hidden and simple for a DIY guy to do it himself in his garage. All right, quickly, these don't look too bad, but your vehicle might look worse. I'm just gonna go around the threads that are gonna be, the nut's gonna be coming off, just to prevent any damage to the thread, because we do need to reuse these bolts. Okay, so first things first, we pulled the wheels off, and now we're just gonna pop the brake line off of the strut and pop the ABS wiring off of the strut. 12mm bolt on each side. And I believe the nuts are just welded to the strut, so all you need is a ratchet or any type of 12mm. And it's a 19mm bolt head and nut head for the 2 bolts that hold the McPherson strut onto the knuckle. Might need a little extension for this guy. Hey, red, got ourselves an extension. As on a Subaru, the vehicle sits, it's pretty, there's no loaded pressure really as it's hanging here with the wheels unloaded. We can pull these bolts out and nothing's gonna get damaged. You can do it by hand. Give it a wiggle. And we're free. This will fall a little bit. Now we're just gonna undo the top mount nuts. Okay, so if you aren't installing Airlifts and you're gonna just say you're replacing these with OEM ones, you probably wanna mark a line along the edge of your strut, just so that when you put it back together, the alignment is very similar to where it was when you removed it, as the top bolt on these vehicles has a little bit of a caster built into the nut, so depending on where you put this, it's going to change where your alignment sits. So pull the knuckle out or in, change your camber and the caster. Okay, you're just going to want to hold your strut from falling as you undo these. You could undo these before and then take it out all at once. We kind of had it up already. So just these, this is a replacement top mount on this side, so it has a different size bolt. OEM's 12 mil, these are 13 mil nuts. Clean up where the strut goes around the knuckle here. You can use a chisel or a wire brush. Chisel to get the big stuff off. I'm just going to run this 3-inch wire wheel on there. And I'm just going to give the area where the top mount sits in your body there a wipe to make sure there's no debris there, because that can change the angle of your alignment also. So it can be rusty up there, in which case you want to use like a Scotch-Brite pad or something to clean it up a little bit better. The car is still all blue up there, so it's just gonna wipe the dirt that could be potentially intruding on our installation. Time to shoehorn these struts in. As you can see before, this top pull is obligated, so that you can adjust your alignment here. And also, with these struts, they have a camber plate, so you can also adjust your alignment up here. Gives you a little more alignment adjustments. Okay, I'm just gonna put a really thin layer of never sees on the bolt. We don't plan on taking these off until something fails, which we require to take off. I've seen a lot of bushings or bolts seized in a bushing because they just have been in there forever and there was never any lubricant on them. So just a super thin layer of never sees is all it needs. Okay, so these struts are specific to left and right. On the top plate here, this one has an R on it. So you just want to make sure that that goes on the right side, just to allow your camber adjustments to work properly, I believe. Okay, so first thing, I'm just going to put this back in the same way we pulled it out. Get this hose over here somewhere. So I like to just get it up there and then just thread. Get these started. So these babies are a lot shorter than the factory. So either we can sit this down on a jack or a jack stand. A jack's better because it will still roll as the weight comes down. The geometry's gonna push it out. So we're gonna get the other side on, and then we'll go down with the hoist and we'll just jack up these arms and line it up. So there are a couple ways you can do this. If you're gonna do it by yourself, I recommend this is the easiest and safest way to do it. You can have two people with a big pry bar to lift it up, or there are other ways, but I find it the easiest to have a rolling jack and just put it underneath your control arm near the ball joint. And we'll just lift her up into place. close here. A little bit more. And yeah, you see how easy that was to just have the rolling jack there to line this all up. You don't have to fight with anything, you can do it by yourself. And the washer, I'm not sure if this is like all of them, but the washer is gonna go on the top camber adjusting bolt while you have it lifted up on the strut there. You might as well go ahead and just tighten these down. Don't over tighten them. We know that they, I think they're what, 15 foot-pound stacks?
Learn the hard way.
They can strip pretty easily. Woo! Woo! A couple 14 mil nuts on the top mounts on the rear struts. This one's a little bit tight, especially with what we got going on here. You don't want to lose that, so I just kind of held a magnet beside it as I pulled it off. We've lost it once before in there, and it was kind of hard to find. So just be careful with the nuts, especially that one. We're able to just undo these nuts with the weight hanging on the rear suspension. Suspension's holding them up. So we'll just first undo both top mount nuts, and then we'll lift the car up a little more and go from underneath. I just removed the sway bar bushing bolts because they're super straightforward to take out. Whenever you're dealing with like the sway bar end links, they're a little bit more of a nightmare sometimes. I mean, this bolt probably would have come out pretty easy, but these are just two bolts with welded on nuts. So I popped both those off just to relieve pressure for me to pull down on this assembly to have space to remove the strut. So I undid that, and now we're just gonna undo the bolt that holds your strut on the lower one. It can be a little tight, so I'm just gonna crack it with the breaker bar first. If you got a big 1/2 inch, then you're good, but it's a 17 mil on both sides. And check how loose it is right now. And we're just kind of hanging everything, so. All right, so with the sway bar undone, it just allows us to lower it down a little easier. You can do it with the sway bar attached, but you're gonna be fighting yourself and you might need 2 people. So pop those babies out, undo that bolt. And I'm just gonna come across here with the big pry bar over to my lateral link on the body. And when I just pull down enough on it, I'm gonna be able to release it from the top here, below the inner fender, just like that. Didn't take too much pressure. Now I can just come back out with that. I don't need this anymore. And I'm just gonna use a smaller pry bar, and I'm just gonna come underneath here and just wiggle it and help that guy out of there, because it can be a little tight. Let me get underneath it somehow, that might help. I got this little tiny pry bar here. Just like that. And another one gone, and another one gone. Another one bites the dust. So just like on the fronts, you're gonna want to take a rag and just clean up anywhere that another piece is gonna be touching. So I just kind of cleaned up between the bushing on the lower bushing on the strut, just wipe that off. And where the top mount plate sits, we'll just give that a little wipe. And then we can go ahead and just shoehorn that Airlift strut back in. It's gonna be a lot shorter like it was in the front, so we might need to just lift up on the bottom with the jack again. And because we're doing, I'm gonna try and make this a one-man job. You can't really hold this up into there and be able to reach into the trunk and thread any nuts on. So we're gonna go ahead and install it from the bottom first. That way I can lower this down, jack this up, jack it into the holes, and then I can myself go around and tighten that nut, those nuts. So we'll just put this bolt in. And we just orientated, we've already loosened everything off here and cleaned them up when we did the rebuild kind of on these struts. So I'm just gonna orientate that to the inside for now. Okay, before we lift everything up, we'll just put these sway bars and our bushing mounts back together. Just like before in the front and the rear, I'm just going underneath the knuckle. And so the easiest way is to be on this side so I can push the strut that way and I can line this top mount up. So we're just gonna slowly go up with her. Now that I got those struts pushed up into their holes, I can come around to the trunk and thread on the two nuts. That is not the right size. We're gonna go up to 16 foot-pounds, cause fuck it. Probably over that already with that 1/4 inch. You just don't like meh. Okay, we have all of our struts in. They're snug. We haven't torqued them down yet. We're going to hook up our air lines because we have adjusted the bodies to lower the vehicle slightly more than we had it last year. So we just want to make sure to see if the wheels and everything are going to fit in the fenders. So we're going to put our air lines on now, and we just actually ran a bunch of air through all of our air lines that are running along the vehicle and through the water separators and the drains on the compressor system, just because it's been sitting for a while now. So just want to blow any moisture that might have been in there. So we're going to hook up these lines, put the wheels on, see how it looks, and we're going to do our torquing and our alignment adjustments after that. Okay, so everything's free here. These are adjustable. The height is adjustable when they're in. We can just turn the whole body here to make the strut shorter or taller. Before, when Dax first bought these and installed these, we were kind of excited to put them in. So all this stuff hadn't been pulled apart and cleaned up like we did this year. So we didn't know if they were adjustable, and everything is, so that's awesome. So you don't need to take it out to raise it a little bit if you did put it a little too short. Now, since we can do that and line these lines up where we actually want them, we're going to just, we have excess up in the trunk. So I just cut a fresh, clean 1/4 inch off of this airline. And when these guys go together, it just does that. And now, see, I can't pull it out. And when you undo it, you just push it in, and then you want to hold that and pull it out. So that's how all air brake fittings work. And then probably just gonna wrap this along the sway bar like that, this here, and go up above the exhaust, and it'll go into the trunk. Any air brake system or air lift system or your oxyacetylene torches, anytime you have gas and you got all the fittings there, we're going to be leak testing that with just a soap water solution, just regular mild soap mixed with some water or some dish soap mixed with water, and you just spray that all over the fittings and the lines where you suspect there could be a leak or where there is a fitting. And anyways, it's just going to show, it's going to start bubbling, soapy bubbles if it is a leak. So we're just going to go ahead and spray down all the fittings that we just attached and where we put them into the struts.
Hello, Billy. What just happened?
What just happened? These air brake fittings were leaking. They sealed on the thread side, but I had already cut it a brand new section of hose and put it on all the way, and it still leaked even as it was sitting with no tension on either side. So we went to Lordco, and they didn't have the exact same fitting, but they had a female union to a male pipe thread with the airline. So I guess they didn't have any female pipe threads to airlines. So we're just gonna go ahead and tighten these in here, and then we'll go and install these back on the lines where those were. And make sure you don't forget to install your brackets for your ABS wiring and your brake line. You don't want to tear that off with your wheel. Woo! We're gonna put the wheels on so we can tighten everything and align everything. We need to have it sit down on the ground to be able to look at all of our angles. No mufflers on right now. Just wanted to go over the torques with you and what not to forget. So on the front, the two bolts, the camber bolt and the bolt below it, need to be torqued to 120 foot-pounds. And on the rear, you're going to want to torque the lower strut bolt to 90 foot-pounds. And also, don't forget to tighten the your strut rod nut at the top here, because we had to replace our pillow ball bearings. So you just got to remove your dampener and then just make sure that these are tight, and then that you tighten your lock nut to the bottom bolt there. Make sure that you got your camber bolts tightened on the camber plate. So yeah, that's kind of all the things you want to make sure that you remember to tighten. And as when we did already show you that we did tighten all the top strut mount bolts, the 15 foot-pounds in the back end and the front. We didn't want to bore you with all the lifting it and lowering it, lifting it, and taking it out to try and get our alignment to fit in our fenders as best we wanted it to, without compromising too much of the handling and tire wear aspect of the alignment. But basically, what Dax wants is he wanted it to sit as low as possible without us, modifying inside the fenders or anything too much. It's already kind of torn all that apart anyways. He's rolled his fenders slightly. We're gonna roll them more later. You just have to take off your caliper to do a proper roll. But anyways, so we kind of just lowered it down, and we just wanted the camber to make it so as tight as possible to the fenders when we lowered it with no pressure in the bags. So we kind of just adjusted our camber plates and the camber bolt on the strut to get it as close to the fender as possible. And then after that, we looked at the toe. And when I look at toe, I try and look at it right down the middle of the wheel, and I line up this rim with this edge of the rim. So you kind of run your eye along it like this. And as your two rims line up, you look past it, and you can tell if you can see the back tire a little bit, not at all. You can kind of see whether or not you're towed in or towed out on that wheel. So I don't have an alignment machine here. Dax might go get this aligned properly, but for now, before he can take it to a proper alignment machine, that's just how we're gonna eyeball the rear toe and the front toe. And same within the rear, you have a camber bolt on the bottom rear lateral. They call it a lateral link, but it's actually more of a lower control arm. So on his, they're not stock, so that he can adjust them, because stock ones you can't adjust that camber on the bolt that holds the lower part of the knuckle. So anyways, we adjusted that, but then it messes with your toe and everything. So you want to get your camber to where you as close to where you want it. And then you can go and finesse your toe, and you just go to the back side and look down at the exact same way I just mentioned, and you can kind of eyeball it pretty close. You just gotta make sure you find that fine line as soon as you see the two rims, and then look past it. And yeah, so that's how I do temporary alignments. You can buy different tools to do better alignments, but still not as good as a proper four-wheel alignment done at a shop that has a nice four-wheel alignment machine. So now Dax is going to take this out for a burn and just see how it feels, and then we'll roll it back in here, take a look at our toes again, because things can kind of settle a little bit. Don't forget to torque your wheels!
Trunk and show you guys how exactly I went about installing the air tank, the compressors, the air lines when they came up in the trunk, as well as just the manifold and everything I did in there. So I got the air tank mounted to these black brackets in the back. It's just kind of a temporary setup until I get my trunk set up how I actually want it. You can see I just ran a bolt. There's already holes all through those. I just ran a bolt through. tightened them down, and then I actually bolted the brackets down after. You can see there's just a couple of bolts here that hold it in place. There's one there, one over on that side, and a couple in the back. With the seats pulled down, you can access them. On the back side of that tank is all the air fittings where they go into. You can see I got these two lines here. Those come off the back of the tank and they come into the air water separators here. And then from those separators, they go directly into the compressors. And then from the air tank, I have the fittings coming down into this manifold here. It goes into the T fitting, it's called. It's labeled as a T on there. That's what supplies the air to each of your struts. The E is the exhaust, so when you're airing out, air will blow out of this one here. You can run a hose from here and have it go somewhere else so it's not so loud in your trunk. I don't really care. I also have this line here that I ran around. Comes down here, it's just to a safety valve. And it's just a place that I can empty out my air tank maybe once a week. I'll use that to get the water out of the tank as well as the water separators. It's just an extra little thing. Kind of when I fuel up, I'll just blow up my lines and make sure that everything is clean and there's nothing building up in there. I've done a second battery in my car. I have my headliner star lines, so it just made sense to have it back here when I did that. I used this battery for the driver for my headliner, and I knew I was gonna get airbags, so I ran a positive line back here with I think 4-gauge wire. I just tapped it into my positive in my front battery, put it onto the positive of this battery, grounded my battery in the back, and then I have power for not only the Starlight headliner, but also my air system. So from the battery, I have the wiring harness that comes with the Airlift kit, hardwired directly to the battery. From the battery, it goes to these two relays back here that I just mounted on 2 bolts that I found. There's 2 little squares back there. The Airlift controller in the car or the app on your phone will control those relays to turn your compressors on when it's at a certain level. You can actually change the settings on your Airlift controller to come on if it's halfway full, if it's an eighth full, if it's whatever you want. Other than that, I think if you want to have a look down here, you can see down there where I ran my hoses up, there was already a grommet down there. I just punched 2 holes in it. So I got the 2 left sides on this one, and the 2 right sides were over here, down there. And the rest of the shit you see in there, just that's the harness that goes into the manifold itself. That's what controls the air to all your struts. They come off of all these lines. I've marked my fronts with the white tape and my backs with the no tape. Obviously the right's on the right side, left's on the left side. That's just a basic rundown of how to set up your trunk. I wouldn't necessarily do it this way. This is just a quick setup just to get things up and running. One day I will take the time to make my trunk look clean and maybe make it look nice back here. I would like to wrap my tank and stuff, so that's how you will set everything up. At that point, it becomes your time to be creative and do what you want and make your trunk set up how you'd like it. There's tons of different ways of doing things, so just get creative and have fun with it and do what you want to do. So I got the trunk liner back in just so you guys can see what it looks like when it's all set up. It's very hidden, you can barely tell other than the tank being in there. It's nice and clean, it looks stock. Underneath may be a mess, but it's very hidden with that tray liner. And that's the stock tray liner. I had to do a couple of cuts just to go around the legs. And yeah.
You can still go golfing.
You can still do whatever you want. Clubs in the back, groceries.
Okay, so that's the end of season 1, episode 8 for the DIY air strut install. We ran into a couple little issues there that you can see we tried to address. Preferably, you want to get your vehicle 4-wheel aligned as soon as possible. The hard part is there's a lot of shops that do alignment aren't going to touch this, and they don't want to mess with a vehicle where they can mess with the camber, which would cause them to destroy the fender when they took care of the system. So really eyeballing it and driving it and seeing how it feels and just checking wear in your tires is kind of the best way that we know how to do it where we live. And Dax ends up saying it's steering funny. We're gonna address that and see if we can make it feel a little better for him. So subscribe, follow, like us, comment down below, let us know how you're liking this season so far, and maybe what you want to see in season 2, because Jack's gonna be saving some money, and he's gonna want to do another season 2, so most likely he's already got it planned out, but if you guys let us know something that you might like that you think is gonna be badass, then we'll probably listen to you and give it a shot. Episode 9, we're gonna be installing a Cobb short shifter and some shift linkage bushings on Jack's STI for Series 1, Episode 9. So if you want to have that quick shift, there's tons of mixed reviews online on people not enjoying the short, quick shifts, and Dax is pretty particular with how he likes his vehicles to drive and how he likes everything to work. So he's going to be perfect for a review on how he compares the original shifter to the Cobb quick shift. Thanks for watching this video. Stay tuned, watch some more videos, and if you haven't seen the earlier videos on this series, go check them out.